If I could have your attention, please. Welcome to Istanbul. We're going to be starting the 4th Ethnosport Forum in just momentarily. So if I could please ask you to kindly take your seats. We have our online participants and contributors waiting for us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats. Thank you. If I can turn your attention to the screens in front of you, as you can see, we have the 4th Ethnosport Forum. Değerli katılımcılar, forumumuzun başlamasına 2 dakika kalmıştır. One final reminder to you, we have about 90 seconds to go. We have a small number of participants here. The majority of the participants will be online. Therefore, may I kindly ask you to remind you to actually turn off the ringers of your cell phones, because once it rings here, it will actually ring on the output signal. Thank you very much. We'll be beginning in 60 seconds.
motto, Reviving Traditional Sports, the World Ethnosport Confederation aims to systematize traditional sports and games while increasing awareness and making their practice more accessible and permanent. The Ethnosport Forum brings together many esteemed participants from all over the world to discuss challenging topics regarding the past, present, and future of ethnosports. The Ethnosport Forum provides the opportunity to determine joint strategies and international collaborations aimed at reviving traditional sports through a collective platform. The Ethnosport Forum, which has been held annually since 2018 and welcomes participants from 70 different countries, invites attendees to share ideas and help build a common ethnosports roadmap through panels and roundtable discussions. The Ethnosport Forum's purpose is to inspire the future of traditional sports through valuable ideas shared from experts in different fields.
Concrete strategies for the revival of traditional sports and games around the world. We've kept things concise, followed by a high-level ministerial panel discussion, and then our highly anticipated annual award ceremony, and then finally a couple of roundtable sessions before our closing ceremony. Without much further ado, here to open the forum and deliver the day's first remarks, it is my pleasure to invite to the stage the President of the World Ethnosport Confederation, Mr. Necmettin Bilal Erdoğan.
Of Turkey, esteemed ministers, esteemed representatives,
Türkiye'de bir tanesi. edecek. Katılımcılarımızın arasında çok da bir saat farkı olmasına rağmen bir araya gelecekler. İki panel bu yüzden iki farklı zamanda gerçekleşecek. Bu bizim bağlarımızı güçlendirmemiz için bir fırsattır. Geleneksel spor ve oyunlar dünyası baktığımız zaman çok güçlü, endüstriyel destek alan, geliri olan bir dünya değildir. O yüzden bizler yeteneklerimizi, güçlerimizi bir araya getirip geleneksel oyunlar ve sporlar çevresinde birleşmek için odaklamalıyız. O yüzden bu forumda bizim için en büyük fırsat geleneksel
That is why I think even though it's an online opportunity to do so, the Ethnosport Forum gives us an immense opportunity to unite and increase our strength as we step forward. Our aim is not just to preserve traditional sports and games, but of course this is a mission to revive cultures around the world. There is a common philosophy that I try to convey in all of my talks and speeches, is that the world is a very colorful place with all of its differences and different cultures. And when we talk about cultures, we talk about music, we talk about costumes, we talk about food and sports and everything. And given the strength of some cultures compared to others, there is a real pressure and difficulty to survive these cultures to the future generations. That is why the mission of reviving traditional sports is also a mission of reviving the richness of the cultures of the world, the colorful nature of the world. With all of these objectives in mind, we invite again all members of the traditional sports field to this forum. There are academicians, there are high-level representatives including ministers, bureaucrats, we have obviously sportsmen, we have here retired sports people. Anybody who has anything to say about the future of traditional sports, I think they appreciate this forum as a venue to voice their opinions. Although we have distances among us, we are all together with the idea of reviving traditional sports, and this is what unites us here. And I would like to thank all my colleagues for undertaking this digital forum. Digitalization has always been in our agenda because as we try to revive traditional sports, we have to convey traditional sports and games, especially to younger generations. And if you want to connect to our younger generation, our children, you have to use digital facilities, you have to use games, you have to use the internet and social media. And I think this pandemic has made it incumbent upon us to use digital facilities to do such a forum. And I urge all participants to really try to use this occasion to voice their opinions and discuss issues so that the conclusion of this forum is beneficial from now on. And I hope the opening panel, in which we will talk with our ministers, the issue regarding the youth during and after the pandemic, how can we re-energize traditional sports among the youth as they reconnect with sports after the COVID pandemic. So we will talk shortly about these issues with our ministers, and I would like to thank all ministers who are physically here. I would like to thank those who have sent their video messages, especially President of the Republic of Turkey, His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, for sending us a video message. And I would hope this is a concise but fruitful event for all the participants in this endeavor for reviving traditional sports and games. Thank you very much.
Mr. Erdogan, I think I speak on behalf of all of us, and I'd say that we're eagerly awaiting to reconnect with sports once this pandemic is over. All right, I'd now like to invite to the stage the Youth and Sports Minister of the Republic of Turkey, Dr. Mehmet Muharrem Kazapoğlu.
Esteemed President, esteemed ministers, and esteemed President of the Ethnosport Confederation, esteemed representatives, esteemed authorities, esteemed participants, I greet you all with respect. In our beautiful city of Istanbul, the capital of civilizations, we are greeting you and we are very excited about this. We'd like to welcome you to the 4th Ethnosport Forum. The revival of traditional sports is the slogan of our meeting. Today we discuss our strategies, policies, and our aims towards traditional sports, our short, medium, and long-term goals, and we will enhance our brotherhood, our friendship, and in this concept, I would like to acknowledge everyone who has contributed to this forum, especially the Confederation. Esteemed participants, it is without doubt that sports is a universal tool for peace, and it is also an important phenomenon for cultural and social welfare. And on the 6th of April, every year, we are celebrating the Sports Day, and on the 9th of April, we are celebrating the Clean Sports Days. Of course, in the global scale, the clean sports is an important concept. Of course, it is the journey of sports people who to try to defend their rights. And also, together with the COVID pandemic, it's one of the major issues of sports. In the global scale and also on a national scale, we have the COVID pandemic threatening the health of everyone. And for that, to find solutions and to discuss the issues, we need to have a strong international cooperation. And this is emphasized just once more. No one can be safe until everyone is safe. So therefore, also under the leadership of the Ministry of Health, we are working on, and also under the leadership of youth and sports, we are carrying out many activities, and internationally we believe everyone has a part to play. And sports fans have unfortunately had to remain apart from sports events during the pandemic, and also meanwhile the deserved popularity of traditional sports have also been lacking and has had a difficult time, has had a challenge in this period. And we are responsible for combining our strength to bring their respected respect back. And also in terms of national identity, traditional sports is also very important for the enhancement of bonds of brotherhood and international societies. And reviving and maintaining the heritage of our forefathers, we have to also relay it to the next generations. In that context, UNESCO has accepted the archery, Turkish archery, to its list of heritage sports is very important in this sense. Of course, in terms of increasing sportive, competitive edge, has always been one of the foundations of our national standing internationally. And under the leadership of our President, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, sports have been focused on, and the legislation for sports have been adopted and enhanced, and we have taken determined steps on this path. Of course, we have modernized sports, and we have, with the most advanced legislation, and we have focused on also developing our vision for the development for sports. And in our vision for development of sports, we have included the promotion and introduction internationally and nationally of the traditional sports, and of course the aim and purpose of developing sports tourism by hosting various national and international events is among these strategies. Well, due to our sportive investments, we have had the chance to successfully host many national and international sports events recently. And as of the year 2015, when the World Ethnosport Confederation started its operations, the revival and introduction of our traditional sports has been among our major activities. We have supported our confederation with all our opportunities, and we will continue to do so. We have hosted 3 international programs until now, not only in terms of organization, but also in terms of facilities. And we have included our traditional sports in our investment programs and policies. And in our capital, Ankara, I believe, we have had the opportunity and the happiness and pride to build one of the most modern and comprehensive facilities for traditional sports, and many families are now benefiting from these facilities to build and train sports athletes, and also to revive the traditional sports. We have our activities of our youth camps, the sport camps, and these are also part of our efforts to have the young generation appreciate sports. As the ministry, we have Sports in Turkey digital platform, which we have established to introduce the traditional sports as well as contemporary sports to the entire world. And in the upcoming period, we all will continue to take steps to enhance the existence of traditional sports and the revival of traditional sports. Esteemed participants, and we are also preparing to host the 4th Traditional Games in Bursa, and also to host the 5th Islamic Forum in Konya. And in spite of the pandemic, we are carrying on our preparations in full force for these 2 events, and we are very happy and proud to so. And the World Nomadic Games will be organized with the highest contribution befitting of the status it has. In the 3rd Global Nomadic Games in Kyrgyzstan actually had thousands of participants. And in order to enhance international cooperation, and it has become a tremendous visual experience for the entire world. And for the next event, many people will come from the entire world to our country to experience this visual magnificence with their own eyes. And I would also like to invite you all to this event, and I would like to point out once more that we will stand by traditional sports with all our opportunities and all our power until today, and we will carry the traditional sports to the place and position it deserves with all our minds. So with these words, I would like to state once more that the fourth traditional Ethnosport Forum be beneficial for our traditional sports, for all our participants, and for all the people who are interested in these sports worldwide. Thank you. Esteemed Minister, thank you very much.
Honorary opening speech of the fourth Ethnosport Forum. I'd like to bring your attention to the President of the Republic of Turkey, His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdoğan.
Spor Konfederasyonu'nun kıymetli yöneticileri, değerli sporcularımız, saygıdeğer misafirler, sizlere en kalbi duygularımla, muhabbetle, hürmetle selamlıyorum. Geleneksel sporların ihyası temasıyla bu sene dördüncüsü düzenlenen Ethnosport Forumu'nun başarılı geçmesini temenni ediyorum. Dünyanın farklı köşelerinden foruma çevrim içi olarak iştirak eden, katkı sunan, destek veren tüm kurum ve kuruluşlara şükranlarımı sunuyorum. İnsanlığın koronavirüs salgınıyla mücadele ettiği bir dönemde böyle bir forumun tertip edilmesini son derece isabetli buluyorum. Salgınla beraber sadece sağlığın ve sağlıklı hayatın değil, aynı zamanda dayanışmanın, paylaşmanın, geleneksel değerlerin önemini de gördük. Bu süreçte dil, din, ırk, bölge fark etmeksizin büyük insanlık ailesi olarak hepimizin kederi ve kaderinin ortak olduğunu bir kez daha anladık. Salgın, ülkeler arasındaki adaletsizliklerin yanı sıra tek tipçi, dayatmacı, popüler kültürün de açmazlarını ortaya koymuştur. Bireyselliği yücelten, maneviyatı yok sayan, geleneksel değerleri hor hakir gören hakim zihniyet, salgının yol açtığı sorunları derinleştirmiştir. Covid-19 salgını sonrasında yeniden şekillenecek dünyada geleneksel spor dalları ile bu sporların temsil ettiği kültür ve değerlerin daha fazla öne çıkacağına inanıyorum. Nitekim son bir yıl içinde ülkemiz gençlerinin spora, özellikle atasporlarımıza yönelik ilgisinin giderek arttığına şahit oluyoruz. Türkiye olarak bu ilgiyi canlı tutarak atasporlarımızın daha da yaygınlaşması için yürütülen çabaları desteklemekte kararlıyız. 60'tan fazla ülkenin iştirakiyle gerçekleşen bu önemli forum kapsamında yapılacak tartışmalar inşallah bu mücadelemizde bizlere destek olacak, yol gösterecektir. Bu düşüncelerle nazik davetiniz için tekrar teşekkür ediyor. 4. Ethnosport Forumu'nun ülkelerimiz için hayırlara vesile olmasını diliyorum. Forumun icrasında emeği geçenleri tebrik ediyor. Rabbimden her birinize muvaffakiyetler niyaz ediyorum. Kalın sağlıcakla.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Your participation means a lot to us. All right, for the few of you who are in person here, I'd like to ask you to turn your attention to the large screens in front of you. For our online participants, this will be full screen. Here's a short video of who we are and what we do. After that, we'll be putting on screen the participants of the high-level ministerial panel discussion, and we'll be looking at traditional sports and games as a new motivation for young people during this pandemic.
Ethnosports is the collective wealth of traditional sports and games that have been performed for centuries in different nations from various geographies. Ethnosports is the experience that has been passed on from generation to generation through belongings, stories, poems, by word of mouth, and the things that form our individuality and make us who we are. It is competition, not ambition. Struggle, not war. Health, not doping. The player's potential and the fans that cheer, not customers. It is the place where different cultures meet and mingle, the siblinghood of having walked the same land, the excitement of lifting a tradition back onto its feet. In light of these objectives, formed in 2015, the World Ethnosport Confederation is a relatively new institution, but it has deep-rooted accumulation, and with its professional representatives in the numerous countries who are aware of their responsibility to revive time-honored sports that many nations have performed in distant geographies over the centuries to increase awareness and to transfer the culture to future generations. The World Ethnosport Confederation continues its journey through the wealth of activities, festivals, forums, and academic studies. It arranges for the purposes of preserving traditional sports that are humanity's common heritage and systematically ensuring their continuity with discipline.
To this first panel with our currently we have people watching us from over 60 countries, and following this session we will have first the award ceremony, and following that award ceremony we will have two discussion sessions for different time zones. We wanted to accommodate people joining from all around the world, obviously. With us today, we have ministers from Gambia, His Excellency Bakari Badji, to the very left. I'm sorry, to the very right. To his left, we have Minister of Youth and Sport of the Republic of Serbia, himself a sportsman, His Excellency Vanja Udavicic. And to my right, we have the Minister of Youth and Sport from the Republic of Mali, His Excellency Musa At-Tahir. To my left, we have the Minister of Culture and Sports from the State of Qatar, His Excellency Salah bin Ghanim Al-Ali. And to his left, we have the Minister of Youth and Sports of the Federal Government of Somalia, His Excellency Hamza Said Hamza. Welcome you all, and thanks for being here today. Today the title of our panel discussion is Traditional Sports and Games as a New Motivation for Youth During and After COVID-19. Obviously, people have disconnected from sports for the most part. Certainly only those industrialized sports with sponsorship support and the financial means have been able to broadcast from televisions and the internet, and that's the most part for sports. People try to continue their fitness activities out in the open, but unfortunately most of the competitions have been delayed and limited to a great extent. So people will have to start reconnecting to sports after the COVID pandemic. And traditional sports and games has always been a means for connecting those who are disenfranchised from sports back to sports. According to our studies in Turkey, About half of the population is definitely away from sports. They don't even watch sports, let alone practicing sports. So even for the sports for all movement, traditional sports is a means to franchise these people back into sports and practicing sports. In the first round, I would like to hand over to their excellencies about their ideas, how they see traditional sports as a mean to connect youth who are distant from sports back into sports. Let me start with Gambia. Mr. Baji, Your Excellency, what do you think about traditional sports in the post-COVID-19 environment?
Thank you, and good afternoon to the panelists here and to our guests watching us both here and those who are watching us from online. Well, personally, like you said, coming from Gambia and having done sports myself at a youthful age, a lot of things have changed in the sense that when we were growing up, we had our traditional sports, and these sports includes wrestling, it includes game boarding, and it includes horse riding, and quite a number of other activities that young people were doing. Now, over time, of course, in soccer or football, over time, these things have changed. Quite a number of those sports have been commercialized, and the focus is no longer on how it brings unity and unity within the communities or within families, and how it unifies families in the evenings or during the weekends, and people forget about their background, their differences, but focus on the fact that they're doing sports, and more into the issue of how much money it brings into the sector. Recently, we know with the COVID coming in, a lot of things have changed again. From the Gambia, sport was kind of stopped for close to a year. It was until recently that we started reopening quite a number of some games, including wrestling, football, and others. Now, to the question about how things have changed, our perception is that COVID have been able to distance people, young people who were making income from it, communities that were able to come together during the weekend in the evening are no longer able to do that because of the fact that COVID have the restrictions was on. Our intention is that we can utilize the ethnosports, which is the people's sports, to be able to continue doing the sports, because the fact that it's not commercial, it's more communal, and it's more at the family level, people are able to relate more and be able to continue doing the activities that they're doing, even if the countries or the states have restrictions. And these can be done by ensuring that there is support coming from the government, be it at local level or at the national level, in strengthening these kind of sports. And truthfully, this is what is missing from our own side of the world in Africa, where the support to sport is not very prominent, especially where I come from. Our intention is that COVID restrictions taking away would ensure that people come back to continue to do the sports that they've been doing, and continue to unify their societies and the people that live around those communities. Now, how we do it is probably ensuring that there are policies in place that can be able to support these kind of programs, because this forum intends to promote it. And for promoting it, it means that the policies are not there. The policies relate to sports that is commercialized, sport that is football, basketball, volleyball, those that are very prominent, but we do not really have any policy that is directed towards supporting ethnosport and supporting sports that is traditional and that is cultural. And coming out of the COVID, it gives us an opportunity for us to learn and understand what was the things that we were missing in the past, and what do we need to do to ensure that our sports at the traditional level is promoted, not commercially, but promoted to be appreciated by the people that are living within those communities, from the understanding that it has the potential to unify people, it has the potential to bring communities together, and it has the potential to even bring income to those that practice it. So this is my opinion at the initial stage, and of course want to express thanks to the forum organizers, WEC, for the invitation.
Thank you very much. it's very opportune for Gambia to be here because as the World Ethnosport Confederation, in our strategic plan, we have laid out a strategy to energize the world globally from locals. You know, there is this new term called globalization. So we have decided to have 12 regional committees, and 3 regional committees have begun taking shape. The first was Central Asian Ethnosport Committee. The second was West African Committee. And the third is East European Ethnosport Committee. These 3 committees will start their own meetings among each other. So the countries within these regions and the federations from those countries will come together to talk about traditional sports within their regions and countries, and they can even start designing regional traditional sports organizations. So I would like to thank Gambia to be here today. And let's go to East European Ethnosport Committee, to the Republic of Serbia. Mr. Udicic, of course you come from a different sports structure, not traditional but global sports. But how do you see traditional sports can become relevant in the post-COVID era for your country and for East European region?
Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Erdogan, and it's a huge honor to attend this meeting and to have possibility to speak about very, very important things, especially now when we are in global crisis. And from our point of view, from the government side of Serbia, we are trying our best to give space and to give promotion to all kinds of the sports. Everyone knows that Serbia is well known in the worldwide from popular sports, like my colleague said, football, basketball, volleyball, and other sports. But we are trying our best to promote traditional sports, and we have traditional sports attending every year, and we have yearly national championship in traditional sports. And even last year, in the year of COVID, we had again domestic competition, and we are trying our best to make that communication between young people and traditional values. And we thought that this is most important thing to put into of young people, that thoughts and tradition, and they need to be all the time turned to the tradition of the culture. And for the future, our main goal is to promote more traditional sports, because we know that the grassroots sports and the recreative sports and the tradition is to create our nation, and this is something that we need to not forget, and even to develop more in the future. And we will try our best to be more competitive in the worldwide, and to be strong partner of the World Federation, and to even to start the new projects and some new ideas, and to give you some new ideas what we can do in the future all together in that sense. And really today, when we are fighting against coronavirus, and the government of Serbia is giving the strong push, and we are very satisfied that now we are in the top list of immunizing the nation in the world, and this is kind of our way to fight against coronavirus. But we know that we need to stay with mental health, and we need to do all physical exercises. In that sense, we need to promote more physical activities in traditional way, and if we lose that sense, if we lose that way, we will lose ourselves. And in that sense, we will promote more in the future, and we will give our best.
Thank you very much. And now I go on to Mali, who have, but before Mali, the Under-Secretary General of the UN and Executive Director of United Nations Habitat, Ms. Maimouna Modsharif, is with us from from her office. We will have her contribution here because obviously Habitat's mission is to have sustainable human habitat, urban development for all in the world. And obviously we encourage the contributions of municipalities in providing spaces for traditional sports and games. So I would like to get her contribution to this panel. How can we involve youth in the post-COVID-19 era to traditional sports and games, and how can we make sure that local governments and municipalities support traditional sports with facilities? Ms. Maimuna Mod-Sherif, please.
Planned activities such as Ethnosports. We believe that a community-led and youth-led approach is the most sustainable way forward to preserve our traditional activities and make them prosperous. We at UN Habitat are ready to work with WEC to ensure that Ethnosport are supported during and after the pandemic. We have one of the longest standing youth programs in the United Nations system and understand the needs and aspiration of young people, especially in cities and towns where many of them are residing or migrating to. We also have a global public space program through which we can work with the community and local government to design and provide quality and safe public space for young people to play traditional sport and games. Through our partnership with the municipality of Balikesar and the development programs such as One Stop Youth Resource Center, we hope to host many more traditional games in the future. We also look forward to the opening of the UN Youth Center and are proud to have worked with the government of Turkey towards these endeavors. Let us join hands around the globe to make our ethnosport prosperous and our public space safer and more attractive so that youth and all groups can truly enjoy and benefit from the efforts devoted towards attaining the sustainable development goals and the new urban agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I pass the floor to you, Jazlan Gazilan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maimuna Modsharif, for this valuable contribution. Obviously, I'm aware of the sport that you mentioned, and outside in the lobby for the minister participants, we have a ball that they use in Malaysia to play with their feet. Without dropping the ball, you have to play the two sides. They play it in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in that part of the world. And obviously, there is also one thing that makes it more, I think, easier for us to do is traditional sports and games don't really necessitate big big construction investment for facilities. Unlike for a Olympic pool, you have to really spend millions of dollars to build. For a indoor basketball complex, you have to invest a great deal of finances. For a stadium, for anything, you have to invest a great deal of money. But for traditional sports, we talk about wrestling out in the open. We talk about horseback riding out in the open. And our philosophy going forward is to have as little footprint as possible in this world for our coming generations, and to have traditional sports facilities that leave as little footprint as possible. And this event, we have zeroed our climate footprint by purchasing, you can purchase these credits to offset all the energy impact that you do in an event. That is why this event is also environmentally friendly as can be in this time. So we have Mali with us, one of the signatories to our last forum's ministerial document. And I would like to get your opinion about engaging youth to traditional sports in the post-COVID era.
Merci. Excellence, Monsieur Erdogan, président de la République de Turquie, Monsieur le ministre des Sports, Monsieur Bilal Erdogan, président de la Fédération traditionnelle, je voudrais, avant tout propos, vous adresser au nom des plus hautes autorités du Mali et au nom du peuple malien, les salutations fraternelles du peuple malien au peuple frère de Turquie et vous exprimer toute notre reconnaissance pour cette opportunité que vous nous offrez pour venir participer à cet échange d'expériences extrêmement important à nos yeux. Chers homologues ministres des Sports ici présents, chère assistance, Le Mali est un pays qui a une vieille tradition de pratiques sportives traditionnelles. Depuis des millénaires, le Mali, les populations maliennes ont toujours eu, en fonction de leur aire géographique, de leur appartenance locale, pratiqué chacune un sport particulier. Pour vous dire que ce que la Turquie fait aujourd'hui pour la promotion du sport traditionnel nous apparaît très important et constitue pour nous un exemple qu'il faut suivre. Et par là aussi, nous exprimons toute notre disponibilité et notre demande à avoir des créneaux de collaboration et de partenariat pour faire la promotion de ce sport. Au Mali, au niveau institutionnel, la plupart des sports traditionnels ne disposent pas malheureusement de toute l'existence institutionnelle nécessaire pour qu'elle soit promise, au même titre que les autres sports modernes comme le football, le basketball et les autres sports. Néanmoins, nous avons au moins un sport traditionnel qui a sa propre fédération, et c'est la Fédération malienne de lutte, qui participe à plusieurs compétitions au niveau régional, sous-régional et international. Mais nous ambitionnons d'aller au-delà de la lutte et de faire la promotion de la plupart des sports traditionnels de notre pays, parce que nous pensons qu'un pays ou un peuple qui abandonne ou qui laisse périr sa tradition en général et sa tradition de la pratique sportive en particulier, ne peut tout simplement pas réussir, même dans les sports modernes, parce que c'est en donnant envie à la jeunesse de pratiquer le sport, quelle que soit sa discipline, que nous pouvons aussi évoluer pour atteindre les hauts niveaux dans les sports modernes. Donc pour nous, le sport traditionnel est indissociable de la promotion du sport national en général. Nous avons un certain nombre de sports. Ces sports, nous allons travailler et nous avons déjà commencé à faire leur promotion. Et il y a quelques mois, nous avons engagé l'institutionnalisation de la Fédération malienne du chameau. Nous avons des courses nationales et régionales de chevaux. Nous avons des courses de pirogues. Nous avons la lutte traditionnelle. Nous avons les bolets, qui est un concept des populations du Nord qui consiste à faire la compétition sous l'eau dans le fleuve Niger. Excellence, c'est autant de sports qui méritent effectivement d'être promis. Et nous allons continuer à œuvrer dans le sens des partenariats multiformes pour leur promotion. Il est clair que ces sports ont aujourd'hui des contraintes énormes. Donc il y a des contraintes pour le développement de ces jeux traditionnels, mais il y a aussi des opportunités, et parmi les opportunités, c'est ce genre de forum où nous pouvons nous rencontrer, échanger nos expériences et créer des partenariats constitue une opportunité à nos yeux. Nous souhaitons profiter de ce forum pour avoir des échanges avec vous, Monsieur le Président de la Fédération, Monsieur le Ministre, chers collègues, pour approfondir ces différentes idées en vue de la promotion du sport traditionnel dans toutes ces disciplines. Je vous remercie.
Merci à vous. Thank you very much. And obviously, when we engage ministers of sports from around the world, we ask them if there are sports organizations in the field of ethnosport who can engage with us if we don't already have partners in those countries. Sometimes we have partners in countries and we engage them with the ministries that we have contacts with. So in this sense, World Ethnosport Confederation acts also as a bridge with traditional sports organizations and their ministries, because without the support of public authorities, it is really an uphill struggle to popularize and revive traditional sports and games. I would like to thank His Excellency. And now I would like to go to Minister His Excellency Salah bin Ghanim Al Ali from the state of Qatar. I was in Qatar recently. We have a member organization there, Al Ghanna Society, who are interacting with the falcons to hunt. It's a humane way of hunting as well as a sport that puts you out in the open, and so it's, I think, both an animal-friendly and environmentally friendly sport. What do you think? How do you work in this field to engage youth to sports, through traditional sports, outside of your time that you prepare for the Soccer World Cup?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, thank you, brother, for this introduction and for giving me this opportunity and invitation. I would like also to thank the organizers who give this forum the look and feel we are now enjoying, and the content that we are enjoying. So thank you very much. I would also like to convey my thanks to His Excellency, the Minister of Sports of Turkey. I'm sure they give all the support to this forum to happen and for the Ethnosports. I'm also honored to be with my colleagues here on the panel, the ministers. Your question is a very important one. I think that Ethnosports is like any other sport. Of course, they share together the drama, the competition, the benefits. But the Ethnosports is a unique, is in very important way, which is the identity question. You know that Ethnosports is part of our identity and the identity of any nation. And there is where we can really, if we play our cards very well, I think we will get the youth engaged for sure. For example, the Ethnosports, the strength is that it's part of your identity, so it's part of your history, it's part of your ancestors, you know, it's part of your environment, which is very, very important. So what we need to get the youth engaged on this matter as an identity is that we need to tell them the stories of these sports and the stories that these sports generated over the history. They need to know. Actually, the good thing about Ethnosports, if we tell them the right stories about these sports, is gonna engage them emotionally to those sports. It's not about physical and mental and psychological, it's also about emotional. And this is very, very important. The other side of Ethnosports, which I think that to engage the youth, we need to do. And we have, fortunately, you saw yourself how the youth are engaged in our Ethnosports, not only falconry, but also horse racing. Which has become now part of our calendar with the modern races. It's in the calendar. So I think is that we need to look at these Ethnosports which related to the identity, that they must have the ability to change and to develop, and not to look at them as mummies that we need to keep as it is. For example, when we introduced the horse racing in our traditional way, first of all, we collected the stories of these races between this guy and this guy in our history, and how was the race and where it was, and so we got the memory moving, and then the emotions start developing with the youth. Then second, we ask ourselves a question: is it safe according to current guidelines and standards? So we had this question of the helmet. You know, in our traditional race, we wear also the qatra. So how would you wear a helmet with the traditional? So we spend a lot of time developing and making this combination between a helmet, proper helmet with the international standard and our traditional wear. So if we can combine this, two things, emotions and also bringing the ethnosports to current day standards, I think we will be very, very successful in developing.
You made some very good points. I would like to thank you. I think Qatar is one of the countries that the traditional sports world can take some examples. One other country in Russia, I mean, one of the regions of Russia is Sakha Republic in the very northeast of Russia. They have been very successful in promoting their traditional sports and games domestically as well as internationally. Also, obviously, Central Asia is very active in the sphere of traditional sports and games. And Japan with their sumo wrestling. These are some of the examples who have been successful in internationalizing their traditional sports and games. That is why there is a traction domestically to keep your identity, to revive your identity, and it relates to everyone in a country. But internationally, it's also an opportunity to create attraction from outside to your culture. This can mean tourism, this can mean international affairs, this can be better foreign relations. So I think traditional sports and games provides many venues to gain for countries. Now I turn to Somalia. His Excellency Mr. Hamza Said Hamza, the Minister of Youth and Sports. I mean, I know Somalia is going through difficulties, but now I think have a more peaceful future to look upon. How do you struggle with this issue of re-engaging youth back to sports and to keep your own traditional sports alive?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I want to thank for the organizers of this wonderful forum. Actually, it was I cannot say even a dream today I'm here with you. 6 weeks ago, I was in intensive care unit fighting for my life with COVID? With COVID, and I'm today, thanks to God, I'm here with you just to talk about something always was my passions, the ethnos. When we talk about ethnosport, colleagues say it's a sport. I say it's a mother of the sport. Everything started with the ethnosport. When we talk about the ethnosport, it's a culture, it's your identity, it's something belong to you. When we mention like countries like Qatar or just Turkey, we know that would belong to them. Of course, every country has their own identity. We had identity. I was one of the 1,000 kids when after school used to go to watch when these people play, because was a sport for no age. Everybody was participate. But suddenly, those kind of things, disaster can stop. We had two major disasters. One is 30 years ago when we had the Civil War, because this was belonged to the ethnic. The Civil War divided the people. And from that time, we struggled after to bring back all these culture things, because with those sports come with the songs, with dance, with everything just to attract. It was things that we've been used historically as tools for peace in a country just trying to reconstruct. And I spend sometimes on my on YouTube watching Western countries just when they play the wrestling on the beach, and that because it was my passions. And I want to give credit to the people of Turkey for support of Somalia. Somalia is recovering now, and now we have COVID. We have COVID, and COVID actually is being, but with the spirit of the ethnosport, we can beat COVID. Mm-hmm. This can come back, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's something just, it needs a very big commitment. We, as a government of Somalia now, we're trying to bring back to school these things. Mm-hmm. That's only because we use tools as a tools for peace building. Mm-hmm. And that is very important. Mm-hmm. And the place that maybe you can invest, I believe, in some countries as in Africa, that we belong, and that's going to have many countries. And empowering the youth, using them. And Somali population is makes over 70% of the youth, and that is not a good number actually, but still empowering them for the future and doing all these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. As the Confederation, we have, in this, pandemic era, we have sort of went back to the drawing board and worked on our projects, and especially focused on scholarship and academic work. And we have created an executive research body with academics from 9 countries, and they have started their work on an effort on a new encyclopedia for traditional sports and games. This will be a living online encyclopedia. And we have started our PhD scholarship program. We get applications throughout the year from all over the world for PhD candidates who are writing their dissertations in the field of traditional sports and games. And we have different amounts of scholarships given the country of PhD study. So, so far we have started about 2-3 months ago, and we have given 3 scholarships to students from Central Asia and 1 from Turkey. And I would like to let you know that this scholarship program is an important opportunity to create more research into traditional sports and games. This is sometimes useful to revive the forgotten ones, and sometimes useful when there are discussions about the rules of these games. And now I would like to do a second round with our ministers. In this round you can be more free in what you talk about traditional sports and games. But really maybe we can be more concrete in terms of traditional sports organizations in your countries, and how we can engage them with World Ethnosport Confederation and in our committees, and what sort of organizations that we can undertake together. I start again with Gambia, Mr. Baji. How do you think we can work together?
I think working together would, I wouldn't say start now, because I know we've had the relationship between Gambia, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and the Work Federation before today. Maybe there has not been very concrete actions from the previous meetings that have been attended by my predecessor. But of course, the important thing now is the commitment that the ministry has and the government of the Gambia has towards promoting of sports, especially traditional sports. And there has been a renewed commitment in the recent past. That also means that we can be able to learn more and venture into promoting traditional sports. Now, we have associations that are focusing on issues of traditional sports. And like I said, the most important or the most prominent traditional sports in the country is traditional wrestling. There is the modernization of wrestling, which includes the boxing, but as the traditional one is the proper wrestling that is done at community level in open fields, and there is no payment attached to it, and people come together to do that. And we have the Gambia Wrestling Association that promotes that traditional wrestling, and they do that at the national level, but also do it at community level, at the regions, and villages also have their small groups of people organizing drums and coming together to organize wrestling on Sundays, and the population comes out. So that Gambia Wrestling Association is the one that does that. Now, I did talk about earlier about the issue of board games, and board games has been transformed into the draft and others, and that's also on 2 parts. You have those who are at the national level who focus more on the drafts, but you still have local people who play board games on the sand, by having those holes and having those balls that they can be to put in, and that's also there. It doesn't have an association, but it's a prominent sports at community level. Now, that's mostly done by older people. Now, the young ones who are growing up, they do the tire racing, so they have these tires that are no longer car tires that are no longer being used, but you have young people lining up and racing using those car tires, and the one who obviously leads is the winner, and that's also done at community level to promote traditional sports. So these are some of the traditional sports that I can be aware of, but among them, the one that is mostly organized is the wrestling, And horse riding used to happen in the past. It has died down, and there is what they call the Donkey and Horse Association that is responsible for that game. But reality is that it's no longer very vibrant in the Gambia because, again, modern sports have taken over some of these sports. So concretely, coming out of this forum, maybe one initiative that I can go back with is to ensure that I engage the Gambia Wrestling Association more, but also the Donkey and Horse Association so that they can be able to revive the horse riding and the horse race that used to be very traditional and very supportive. I know a country like Qatar and some other Arab countries, horse riding is very common and it's very popular. So maybe that would be one of the areas that we might be interested in learning how to promote it furthermore and how to make it more vibrant at the communal level. Now, the final thing that I want to focus on is the issue of the policies. Currently, from 2 months ago, around January, we started reviewing our national sport policy and the national sport program. And this process is supposed to go for about 6 months, so we're hoping that by the end of June or July, we would be done with our third national sport policy and national sport program, which is also going to be linked with the revision of our National Sport Council Act. Now, we used to have a National Sport Council Act. Now we are transitioning into a National Sport Act instead of a Council Act. So the Sport Act will encompass all sports that are done in the country. And again, a perfect opportunity will be the lessons learned from here. And how do we input into the lessons from here into our National Sports Program and National Sport Policy, but also make the National Sport Act cover the issues of traditional sports and make it recognizable and set up institutions that will be able to promote the Sports Act. So this is what I'm taking out from here, and that's a commitment that I'm making myself as a sport minister. We're working with my team to ensure that we move forward, learning from lessons from COVID and all the other things, and also maybe factor the issue of not praying that another pandemic happens, but if you fall in a situation where sports is no longer able to be done in the normal way, what can we do to ensure people continue to do the sports at the community level, learning from the lessons that we have encountered in COVID. So strategically, this is what I will want to contribute again. And then, of course, like I said, some of these issues are relatively new to us, so we would want to learn from those who have already been in it, from the Work Federation, from other countries that have been doing it, and be able to use our own traditional means and mechanisms to ensure that ethnosports is promoted in the Gambia moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last year in Antalya, we had signatories to our supporting traditional sports communique. There was, along with Turkey, there was Azerbaijan, Pakistan, Ivory Coast, Somalia, Uzbekistan, and Mali, and the State of Palestine. So we would like to increase the number of ministers who signed this. I mean, it's not anything binding, but it puts out at least a signal to the traditional sports community that these countries are aware of traditional sports and games. Obviously, there are many international communiques that are signed, agreements that are signed under UNESCO, culture ministries and sports ministries signed documents, and some of these do include references to reviving traditional sports and games. And we will shortly hear from Deputy Director General of UNESCO about their agenda with traditional sports and games. But really, we should not let it stay only in documents. That is where we can intervene and help with engaging traditional sports organizations in countries and supporting them, encouraging them to act and sharing best practices, because there are many good examples that happen in and around the world. So I would like to continue with Serbia. Our East European Ethnosport Committee has just started. Central Asian Ethnosport Committee was our first, and it has already made a couple of meetings, but East European Committee has not made its first meeting. Where does Serbia stand? What are the traditional sports there? And are there organizations and federations? And how does your ministry look at that?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say that I agree with my colleagues and with their comments, and thank you for some ideas. And some of those ideas I will apply in Serbia, and I will try to do it in the same way. But when we are speaking about the Ethnosport infrastructure, and that we are speaking about identity of the people, I think that all of us, we need to realize that we need to start from the beginning. Why I'm saying that? Today we are attending this forum, and it's just 6 of us. And like you mentioned, Mr. President, it's 60 countries is following this forum, and we are doing through online system, and everything now in the present is going online. And this is the fact of the coronavirus, and this is our future, that the young people, young generations, they are more turned to the online system, to the games on TV, and sitting in their sofas, in their homes, and playing kind of sports. And now we are fighting against this modern culture and esports. And today when we are speaking about traditional sports, I think that all of us playing together, acting together, needs to understand and to unite and fight all together how to bring all those kids out of their homes, out of their sofas, going out and trying any traditional sports or activities. And this is, I think, our goal. This is something that we need to work all together, and in that sense we are putting a lot of efforts to promote sports in Serbia and to promote to young people how it's important to practice and to do any sports, really any sports. And in that sense, we have very, very good infrastructure when we are speaking about Ethnosport in Serbia. We are financing from the government level through the main sports organization all activities which is regarding to the ethnosports, and we are more than proud because every year we have more and more people, because like my colleague said, it's not just for the young people like in all sports, it's more for all generations, and this is kind of the promotion from our fathers and through their fathers, or traditional activities and traditional sports. And this is kind of the way that all of us need to understand and to show to the others, like from our activities. And I think that we need to start from all of us, what we are doing and what message we are sending to the young generations. That means, like you, Mr. President, you're active every day, you're practicing every day, you're showing that strong message to the population and to your friends and to young generations what we need to do and how we need to promote lifestyle of the future, not to live and to understand that obstacles and to accept obstacles and to not do nothing and just to say we cannot do nothing and sit in our offices or sitting in our sofa and leave to others to deal with this huge impact on the society. But from the Serbian side, like I mentioned, we will be a strong partner. We even want to organize the next meeting in Serbia on international level. We think that this kind of the meetings and this kind of panels promote even more ethnosport, but promote healthy lifestyles, and most important thing, promote sports generally. And this is the message that I think we need to send today, all of us, like united against Corona, but united against sitting at sofa at home, playing sports on TV and not having any exercises at all.
That's very important, really, because we are in a mission, as you said, to start from scratch. Most of people in my country have zero or minimal idea about traditional sports and games. And so, especially for children and youth, given that they are online, given that they are looking at screens for the most part, We have to put visuals. This can be games, this can be short videos, this can be movies and films, etc. For instance, in Turkey, there is a children's series on TV, and it's about archery and traditional archery. And this has made interest in traditional and Olympic archery grow tremendously in the last couple of years in Turkey. So I think Japan has made a success with engaging kids in soccer with its cartoons, for instance. So we have to start, exactly as you said, from also digital applications and games that advertise and popularize traditional sports and games.
But for example, Mr. President, in Serbia, we are financing the federation named Tug of War, which is taking the rope and breaking the ropes.
Rope pulling, yes.
And this is one of our main traditional sports in Serbia, and we have federation of that sports. And for that reason,
that's probably why you're so strong, right?
Maybe, I don't know. But this is kind of the message that we want to send, that we are financing all kind of the sports activities, and through that sports and through that federation and other federation, we are trying our best to make popularization of all sports, even tug of war.
Yes, thank you very much. Now we move on to Mali again. How can we, I mean, you have already signed our agreement last year, and we have started our Western Africa committee, like you know. What sports and organizations can interact with our confederation in this coming period?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense qu'à l'instar de mes prédécesseurs homologues ministres qui ont déjà intervenu, l'importance et la nécessité de promouvoir les sports traditionnels dans chacun de nos pays respectifs n'est plus à démontrer.
Is to be able to promote these traditional sports in our countries, and to form a synergy, and to accumulate or bring together our common resources, pool together our common resources, which would include, of course, research already conducted in the past already, and it's very important. You, for example, invited countries per region, and we had some common signatures on some common agreements, and Amalia, of course, wants to be a part of this community as well in order to promote our traditional sports. My colleague from Somali pointed out that towards our I have to say at this point that about 3 weeks ago, thanks to sports, I was also be able to make a breakthrough. Maybe it was something that was not possible in my country, in Mali, because we have lived through a crisis for a longer period in Mali as well. And thank God, now we are in a process of peace and the promotion of peace. And here, of course, sports is a major tool for countries that have lived through a crisis. In Mali, in the region of Gao, and I was able to bring together all other regions in Mali together in Gao in terms of sports, and not just modern sports, but also other sports, especially some of which include traditional sports practiced in the north in Gao, and horse riding is very significant in our history, especially on the riverside, on the population, on the peoples of the river. And for 10 years, I invited them to practice the sport for a decade. And in traditional sports in my country include also races, the horse riding, and also camel riding, and also it's the traditional sports has to do with who we are and what we want to become and who we want to be. So it reflects our identity as a people. And so I want to be able to bring this the starts the sports equestrian riding, horseback riding, and also camel riding is two of our traditional sports that we have. And we would like to promote these as well. And for a week, for example, another activity, they race and compete with a nomadic society, and they're proud to win, to raise the best camel, the strongest camel. And this is a source of pride for them in the traditional. And also similarly in the horse racing, horse breeding, we see that we have the traditional sports that need to be further developed and revived and advanced, especially in the southern part of Mali. We have national support for this traditional sport, but unfortunately we don't have any institutionalized sport or infrastructure. So it has to be the people themselves who are interested in the sport to continue with it. So it is actually an indispensable part of our identity as a people, of who we are. So we need to support them. And this is what we want to develop with partners like, for example, Turkey, with brother and sister countries like Turkey, who are of similar mind. Thank you.
My colleagues warned me that we are over time. I think it's because I intervened too much. So I apologize to our ministers. I directly go to Qatar and get his remarks about traditional sports in his country and interaction with one of our very close partners in traditional sports.
Yeah, I think, brother, I'll try to make it short, even though your question is very, very important, and it's a difficult one, really. Practically speaking, is a very difficult question. I'll talk from my perspective. When I came to, as a Minister of Culture and Sport, and culture and sports is also. So the question is why we need to revive the ethno sports. Is it because just we want it to be like a cultural for you know, like National Day celebration, we bring those people and they do like an act, okay, and for tourism, or no, there is a deeper, much deeper need for the ethno sports. As I said previously, I think it's very important because it has it's related to our identity and every nation identity, of course. And the question of identity is also very, very deep a question, because for me, I believe that identity is the way to improve the feeling of belonging to the nation, to any organization, and the nation is one of them. Is that if you want really to increase the feeling of belonging, then which we as a human, we need that feeling. It's very, very important. The people, the youth especially, feel the belonging of the nation. This feeling, actually, it will create the loyalty for the nation, which is very important, because at the end, what you need is a question of national security. This is how deep, at least my perspective is. So ethnosports is one of the identity pillars that we can use to actually ensure the security of our nation. You know, this is how deep we look at it. But if you want to revive it as a national identity, then you have to be careful, because people will look at what you're doing, and also they will look at elite sport. Okay? And what they will see is a very primitive thing, belongs to your identity. On the other side, they see football, which is like TV coverage, the players, the media, the way it's carried, the drama, the content, and then you want to bring to your people this primitive sport, and they will look actually the other way. Then they don't want this to belong to them, actually, unless you keep it like traditional show. So we need to be careful to bring it to a level. TV coverage, the drama happens, the content, we bring it to a level at least very close to what they are now experiencing. The storytelling, If our story is not as good as the story coming from the football and the other NBA and other sports, is not going to be successful. And I don't prefer to go that side. So my decision was, to your answer, is not to go to the obvious, which create an organization, maybe federation for the ethnosports. I think for me, this is my perspective, is going to be a trap. What I did is that every sport that has an elite sport comparative to it, for example, horse racing. There is a horse racing club, modern one. Then we fought with them, and now our culture is part of them, is part of their story, part of their drama. And guess what? Qatari youth are engaged in this one now more than engaging in the modern sports. Also, for example, the traditional sailing is part of the Olympic Sailing Federation. And they conduct the laws, the guidelines, and the competition itself. So we brought it to our way. Even the TV coverage is the same level as all other sports. That's why it's even cheaper as an overhead than running So, of course, it has its disadvantage, But after all, everything has an advantage and disadvantage. And we are going this, still experiencing, still studying, but I think this direction is really working for us.
This is interesting. It's definitely a way, but really, I think if you see in you that the federation, let's say in Turkey, for instance, if we try to put traditional archery within the archery federation, I see great difficulty that they will embrace traditional archery and really put that as an important agenda item. So I think it depends maybe in the country, in the cultural look at these sports. But really, I watched camel racing last time I was in Doha, and you have robots riding the camels. So, so I mean, it has to look as good, if not better, so that people can watch these sports. Thank you very much for attending the panel. And now we go to Somalia. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're talking about how to revive these traditional sports.
Exactly.
And that is very important. Everybody has his own identity. And everybody appreciates his culture. The one who can revive and can honor our is us. If I go back on the situation of my country, we had a big gap. This is something just we've been passing from generation to generation. I mean, we have a gap of 30 years. We started now bringing them back together, asked even to the Minister of Education and Culture to give back some in the curriculum, just maybe teach to the kids not only PE and even the culture. We had two small centers now when the people go there and do the kind of challenge. But it's not going to be very easy to get a new generation replace all the one who just been from a long time just sitting there. You cannot convince them to say, don't play chess on the ground, what we do in Somalia. But they feel more comfortable to sit on the ground and discuss on those things. And those things need a lot of commitment, and we have those commitments. The only thing, good things, is how to share with other countries, get from there some more knowledge. And now we are living in an era of technology. How we can technology to the new generation, kids who are growing up now, they can learn about their culture through the technology, through the computers, and it's going to be taking time. It's not something that's going to come overnight, but I believe we can do. I mean, we cannot. I remember an old guy, I used to go with him when I was a child. He would say, I don't want to be enemy. And I say, what do you mean for enemy? He said, enemy is the one who doesn't like his culture.
That's right.
You need to be your friend to your culture. Appreciate what you are, doesn't matter what you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Now, we have two video messages. The first is from Ms. Gabriela Ramos. She is the Assistant Director General for the Social and Human Sciences Division of UNESCO, and Traditional Sports and Games are under her division. So here is her message to the participants today.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, dear friends. Deeply rooted in the intangible cultural heritage by the UNESCO Convention, traditional sports and games must be safeguarded and promoted by targeted public policies and coordinated actions. Thus, UNESCO, with the support of the government of Turkey and the World Ethnosport Confederation, has adopted a strategy aiming at capitalizing on the power of traditional sports and games and fostering capacity building, knowledge sharing, and outreach in this area. With the group of Friends of UNESCO's member states on this issue, with the NGOs and experts, I'm certain that we will deliver on our engagement of the UNESCO General Conference before the international community. Therefore, I'm delighted to inform you that we will share with participants for the first time UNESCO's guiding principles on the safeguarding and promotion of traditional sports and games. This tool has been elaborated with the support of traditional sports and game experts from a comprehensive global spectrum. I am confident it will serve to strengthen the empowerment of all parties to adopt concerted strategies and implement comprehensive initiatives in this domain. Moreover, based on the UNESCO World Sports Encyclopedia that features more than 3,000 sports and games from all over the world, we are working at the development of a draft interactive digital encyclopedia on traditional sports and games, along with a mobile application offering free access to worldwide data and audiovisual content on TSG worldwide. In 2018, the joint application by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea to inscribe the traditional Korean wrestling in the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity marked a highly symbolic step on the road to inter-Korean reconciliation, and we are so proud to have been part of this. This is a meaningful achievement that still resonates as one of the outstanding transformative diplomatic power of these sports and games to overcome barriers and to build peaceful ties. What an example. I wish you every success to this 4th edition of Ethnosport Forum. Thank you very much for this renewed opportunity to explore concrete achievements together.
I would like to thank Ms. Gabriela Ramos for her message, and it is really important for UNESCO to be supporting these endeavors, and I hope that we don't let these issues at a cultural level, because UNESCO is a very important forum to revive these forgotten cultures, but then to make sure that it is in your streets, it's in your households, it's in your neighborhoods, it's in your sports halls, it's another issue. So I would like to thank them for their efforts. Now we are going to hear from Her Excellency Anna Krupka. She is the Secretary of the State of the Ministry of Sport and Tourism of the Republic of Poland.
Dear President, distinguished guests, dear participants from all over the world, it is a great honor and a privilege to speak to you today. As a Secretary of State in the Ministry of Culture, National Heritage and Sport, I feel that the topic of today's event is very important. Culture and sport have a lot in common. They both build a sense of national identity. They can be a great tool in patriotic education, and both sports and cultural achievements are something we can be really proud of. Traditional sports and games are without doubt an important part of the culture of each country. They express our national character and portray our national values. Sports and games established and developed by people in different regions of the world throughout the ages are considered to be a part of world heritage. They are as important and unique as the art we admire in museums and experience in theaters. The difference is that we can still actively enjoy the sports and games to some extent, even in these difficult times. It is important to all of us, especially during the pandemic, to stay physically active in order to improve our physical and mental health. The dynamic pandemic situation in Europe and around the world means that implementing sports projects aimed at children and youth will require more efforts than in previous years. This is also true for sports events as well as regular sporting activities. We must focus our energy on improving the physical activity of all members of our society, but we must concentrate on children and school youth. Despite significant epidemic restrictions in Poland, children and youth can participate in after-school activities organized within the largest ministerial program called School Sports Club. This program is aimed at primary and secondary school students and provides systematic sports activities in many different sports. In addition, another important governmental program called CLUB provides direct support for sports clubs training children and youth up to 18 years of age. Last year, financial aid was received by almost 5,000 sports clubs all over the country. It is worth emphasizing that in the field of sport for all, the ministry supports all sports, regardless of their Olympic, non-Olympic, traditional or regional status. I believe that traditional sports and games can play an important role in the promotion of sport for all and physical activity all over the world. Especially during the pandemic, they can be used as a great tool to help our societies on their path to return to normal. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share with you our Polish experience and to confirm my commitment in the traditional sports and games. I wish you all very successful discussions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to Poland for this message. I hope that we, with this message, we conclude our session. And we have a 5-minute before we gather again for the third Ethnosport International Awards, Ethnosport Awards. And in 5 minutes we'll be back. Thank you, our ministers who are here today, and I thank also our guests. We have two groups of guests. One is the award recipients, and the other is our sponsors. So it's a very limited amount of people here with us today. Most of you who are watching us, please continue to do so. We'll continue with the awards, and then with the two sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you. Merci.
We're going to take a 5-minute break, like Mr. Erdogan said, to clear the stage. We're going to prepare the stage for the award ceremony. So please allow us 5 minutes, and then we'll be back with you. Thank you very much once again.